Therapy was supposed to be my lifeline. After the divorce, the messy, soul-crushing implosion of a 10-year marriage that left me financially gutted, emotionally hollow, and convinced I was fundamentally unlovable, I'd hit rock bottom. Panic attacks in grocery store aisles, nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake like a broken film reel. My best friend Maya finally dragged me to Dr. Eleanor Vance's office with the gentle but firm words, "You're drowning, Cass. Let someone throw you a rope." And Dr. Vance? She seemed perfect. Mid-50s, silver hair always in a neat bun, eyes the color of calm sea glass, voice like warm honey poured over gravel. Her office smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. She listened, really listened, with a stillness that felt sacred. She asked probing questions, gently challenged my self-loathing. Is it true that you're worthless, or is that just the story you've been telling yourself? And handed me coping strategies wrapped in empathy. After 6 months, I genuinely believed I was healing. I started painting again, slept through the night, even went on a tentative coffee date. Then came session Nalgard 27, the day everything cracked open. I've been talking about my ex-husband David, again, not with anger, but with a dull, persistent ache about how I'd failed at marriage. Dr. Vance leaned forward, her expression soft with concern. Cass, you keep circling back to David as the source of your pain, but what if the real problem is how you perform healing? I blinked. Perform? Yes, she said, steepling her fingers. You're very good at saying the right things in here. I'm working on self-worth. I'm setting boundaries. But outside, you're still canceling plans when anxiety hits. You're still letting your boss walk all over you. You're performing recovery for me, Cass, not living it. She sighed, a sound heavy with disappointment. Honestly, it's becoming a bit tiresome, like watching someone practice walking in a mirror but never stepping onto the street. The words landed like physical blows. Tiresome? Me? The patient she'd praised just weeks ago for remarkable progress. A cold trickle of doubt snaked down my spine. Was I faking it? Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just going through the motions. But later, replaying her words in the shower, something felt off, the phrasing. Becoming a bit tiresome. It wasn't clinical. It wasn't compassionate. It was personal, dismissive. Like she was complaining about a tedious coworker, not addressing a vulnerable patient. A seed of suspicion, tiny but poisonous, took root. What if Dr. Vance wasn't the empathetic healer I believed her to be? What if her concern was just performance too? I know what you're thinking. Recording your therapist is illegal, unethical, and you're right. In most states, including mine, California, it's a two-party consent state. You need everyone's permission to record. I knew that. But the doubt wouldn't let go. It gnawed at me day and night. Was I truly broken beyond repair, as her words implied? Or was she the problem? Desperation overrides ethics. I bought a tiny voice-activated recorder, no bigger than a USB drive, from a sketchy online store, taped it inside my bra right against my sternum before my next session. My heart hammered so hard I was sure she'd hear it over the rustle of my coat. Session number 28 began normally. I talked about the coffee date, a lovely guy, but I'd panicked and ghosted him after one message. Dr. Vance nodded, offering her usual gentle reframes. Then as the session wound down, she glanced at the clock. 5 minutes, Cass. Anything else pressing? I took a shaky breath. Actually, I've been thinking about what you said last time. About me. Performing healing. It really stuck with me. I watched her face carefully. Her expression shifted. The warm concern vanished, replaced by a flicker of something cold. Impatience? Annoyance? She leaned back in her chair, the leather sighing. Ah, that. She let out a short, humorless laugh. Look, Cass, I don't mean to be harsh, but you do have a tendency to ruminate. You latch onto a phrase, turn it over and over until it loses all meaning. It's counterproductive. She crossed her legs, her posture closing off. Frankly, I'm starting to wonder if you're sabotaging your own progress. You seem resistant to actual change, almost like you enjoy the victim role. My blood ran cold. Victim role? This wasn't therapy. This was judgment, condemnation. Before I could respond, she softened her voice again, but it felt like a mask snapping back into place. But that's not helpful, is it? Let's reframe that. What's one small step you could take this week to step off the stage? I mumbled something about calling the coffee guy back, my mind reeling. The session ended. I walked out feeling like I'd been flayed alive, but I had the recording. That night, alone in my apartment, Pickles, my cat, yes, still Pickles, purring obliviously on my lap, I pressed play. Hearing it was worse than remembering it. Her voice, so warm and honeyed when she thought I was on track, turned brittle, sharp, almost sneering when she thought I wasn't listening. Performing recovery, tiresome, sabotaging, victim role. The words were a knife twisting in my gut, but then something else. After the official session ended, before I stood up to leave, there was a rustle of fabric. My own voice, faint. Thanks, Dr. Vance. See you next week. And then her voice, not to me, muttering under her breath, low and clear as she shuffled papers. God, that Cass is such a project. Clings to every word like it's gospel. Thinks painting sad little watercolors makes her healed. Honestly, she'll probably be back in that divorce lawyer's office within a year, crying about another narcissist. Waste of my top-tier hourly rate. Should have stuck with the corporate clients. The recording clicked off. I sat there in the dark, the cat's purr the only sound in the universe. The room tilted. The carefully constructed scaffolding of my recovery, the fragile sense of safety I'd built in that lavender-scented room, collapsed into dust. She didn't see a person. She saw a project, a revenue stream, a tiresome, clinging waste of time. The betrayal was absolute, not just professional malpractice, though that was bad enough, but a profound violation of the sacred trust I'd placed in her. I'd bared my soul, my shame, my deepest fears, and she'd been mentally billing me while planning her lunch. I didn't sleep that night. I drafted furious emails. I researched malpractice lawyers. I wanted to scream, to expose her, to make her feel a fraction of the humiliation she'd inflicted. But then, a different thought surfaced, quiet but insistent. What if she's right? Not about me being a project or a waste. That was her cruelty, her failure. But about the performance? Had I been? Had I been so desperate to look healed, to please the therapist, to prove to myself I wasn't broken, that I'd skip the messy, painful work of being healed? Canceling plans when anxious? Check. Letting my boss dump extra work on me because confrontation felt like death? Check. Ghosting the nice coffee guy because vulnerability terrified me? Double check. Dr. Vance was a fraud, a predator in a cardigan. But her poison arrow had accidentally hit a real target. My healing had been performative, a shield, not a transformation. The rage didn't vanish. But it transmuted. It became fuel. I didn't report her immediately. Not yet. First, I needed to do the real work, the work she was too lazy or cynical to guide me through. I found a new therapist, a no-nonsense woman named Dr. Rivera, recommended by a support group for divorce recovery. Her office was in a slightly shabby building, smelled like coffee and disinfectant, and she had zero patience for bullshit. When I told her about Dr. Vance, omitting the recording for now, she didn't gasp in horror. She just nodded grimly. Happens more than you'd think. Predators find the wounded. With Dr. Rivera, there was no performance, only raw, ugly, necessary work. We dug into the roots of my people-pleasing, my fear of abandonment, my belief that my worth was tied to being easy or healed. It was brutal. There were sessions where I left sobbing, sessions where I wanted to quit, but I didn't perform. I showed up messy, angry, confused, real. 6 months later, I finally sent the recording to the California Board of Psychology, along with a detailed complaint. Dr. Vance's license was suspended pending investigation. Her perfect facade crumbled. Good. But the real victory wasn't her downfall. It was mine. I didn't just paint sad watercolors anymore. I painted furious abstracts, hopeful landscapes, portraits of my own face. Flawed, strong, finally mine. I called the coffee guy back. We're not dating, but we're friends who grab lunch sometimes. No ghosts, just honesty. I told my boss no to an unreasonable deadline. He grumbled but didn't fire me. Shockingly, the world didn't end. I still have bad days. Days where the old tapes play. You're worthless, you'll fail, you're too much. But now I recognize them. They're not truth. They're echoes. Echoes of a failed marriage, a predatory therapist, and my own fear. Dr. Vance called me a project, but I'm not a project. I'm a person. Messy, complex, healing on my own terms, not for an audience, not even for a therapist. I recorded her to catch a liar. Instead, I recorded the moment I finally stopped lying to myself. And that recording, it's not evidence anymore. It's a relic. A reminder that sometimes the most painful truths, the ones hurled as weapons by the people who should protect us, can, if we're brave enough to face them, become the first honest words we've heard in years. I recorded my therapist, and in the ugly whispered truth of her contempt, I finally found my own voice.